Okay, it's time for a Leafs Convo. Norm, Mike, and you, October 20th, a Sunday, the day after the Yankees clinched the American League Championship Series with a huge win over the Cleveland Guardians. Juan Soto stepping up, Giancarlo Stanton, the MVP. Mike, let's just get it out of the way. The Leafs lost 4-1 last night, but your head is not immersed in hockey right now. You're thinking
No,
about
I
your
was
Bronx Bombers going to the World Series.
no, it's fully immersed in hockey. I was watching both games, and let's just say I didn't like the result of Game 3 because this should have been a 4-game sweep. Because you have a 5-3 lead with 2 outs in the 9th inning, and you give up a home run to Fat Christmas, or is that his nickname? Big Christmas.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but no, the right team won, but now, it's Mets or Dodgers, and that'll be a tough challenge, but we'll see.
But you speak like you're so entitled, Mike. The Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009. Are you telling me since then it was their divine right to win the World Series every single season, but didn't?
Yes.
Jerk. The Leafs Convo brought to you by Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakridgeFord.com. 0% interest right now on F-150 through 72 months. You got to get at me, at Norman Oakridge Ford. We're going to have a big week, and I want to help you. Oh, another $8,000 off leasing if you want to go that route. I've got Bronco Sport coming in for dirt cheap. Escape. There's Edge 2025 Explorer. We can't keep them on the ground. Everybody wants to get their hands on them. We appreciate the sponsorship from Oakridge Ford. Without it, we don't have a Leafs Convo. So keep that in mind, guys, when I ask you to give us a hand with our sponsorship, as well as watch the ads, because the longer you watch them, the more pennies Mike and I can accrue at the end of the day. The Leafs a 4-1 loser to the Rangers last night. I was looking forward to Reeves Rempe. That didn't happen. But what did happen, Shesterkin, the best goalie on the planet, stoning the Maple Leafs, who outshot the Blue Shirts. If the Leafs fancy themselves any kind of contender and want to get anywhere, it's a team like the Rangers that they may not be able to become, but at some point will have to eclipse in this early matchup. What was your take?
Well, my take is that the 2 games that the Leafs have lost this season, they've been goalied. And not to say that the other goaltender, the Leaf goaltender, played badly. In both instances, Stolarz played pretty decently against Montreal on opening night, and then last night against the Shesterkin and the Rangers. But Montembeault out goaltended Stolarz, and the offense wasn't able to score. And in this instance, other than the Austin Matthews goal, Shesterkin stoned him blind. And I'm not saying that that's a concern in terms of this team's offense going forward, because I think we know that they're going to score. But to see that they're struggling, and I'm a one-note Charlie when it comes to this. Ryan Reeves should not have been in the lineup. Ryan Reeves shouldn't be in the lineup. You have a healthy Max Pacioretty. That 4th line last night, Steven Lorenz and David Kampf played about 11 minutes because they play special teams. Ryan Reeves played 8 minutes. He is useless. Now, maybe
So Craig Berube has other thoughts on that matter, Mike.
Well, yes, I know he does. He's wrong. I think the reason that he did put him in the lineup is because the Rangers submit their lineup first, and Rempe was in the lineup, so they needed a counter to Rempe in case he got frisky. So
why didn't those 2 go?
You got me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't an opportunity to maybe, but against most teams, and this is going to be an issue in a couple weeks when Kyle Yarncroke is healthy and Connor Dewar is healthy. I mean, right now you have 14 forwards. You've got 13 right now. Pacioretty is a healthy scratch. Once Dewar and Yarncroke are healthy, that's 15 forwards. You're going to have to probably either waive somebody or trade somebody. You have 9 defensemen right now. You're probably going to have to trade somebody or waive somebody. So, there are decisions that are going to have to be made. Now, I have no idea how long Yarncroke is going to be out, but in the here and now, they're essentially a 1.5 line team. Nylander is a really good scorer. 5-on-5 or power play. The power play has not done anything yet. I think it will.
37 this season. Come on.
I'm sorry?
Like 3 for 37 or something like that.
No.
Going back to like
Well,
last year.
I'm not going to look back to last year, but it's. I think they're. I'll look.
It sucked then. It sucks now, Mike. I mean, that's the thing.
Right, but I mean, you can't blame this on Morgan Riley because they took Morgan Riley off the power play.
You're attributing the lack of success last night to Ryan Reeves being in the lineup.
I'm saying Ryan Reeves shouldn't be in the lineup because he sucks. He's not a good player.
Right.
He's a useless player. Put players who have more talent in the lineup. That's all I'm saying. Now, do I understand the reason Berube put him in there? Because Rempe was in the lineup, sure. But Ryan Reeves is a waste of space on this roster.
There was a reason he went in, and had the Leafs won, you still would have said the same thing. So
yes,
I mean, we understand you're a one-man crusade against Ryan Reeves. He's just a small component to a bigger picture that is still trying to fill itself in here, Mike. This is the Leafs Convo for Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakridgeFord.com. You're going to get your next vehicle with me, whether it's a Ford or even an off-make. I can help you with that at Norm at Oakridge Ford. When you support our sponsorship, you support us. Look, they came up against a really good team. The Rangers are, expected to be there in the end. They were the top team in the regular season last year. I wouldn't say it's a litmus test at this point, but I mean, what else would you expect other than a really difficult game to score against the world's best goaltender? And sometimes, Mike, the Leafs do the things that we expect them to do, and that's kind of finish runner-up in that game to a team that's just a little bit better than them. So they have a ways to go to begin punching above and at their weight. But it hasn't been the worst start to the season. So it is what it is. 4 games to come. You move on.
The Rangers are my pick to come out of the Eastern Conference.
Right.
Shesterkin is the best or the second best goaltender in the league. No doubt. That doesn't mean that I don't expect the Leafs to win. I hold them to a high standard because they're one of the, they have one of the best forwards in the league. They have an improved defense, all the things that we've talked about. They did not play well last night. They did not get traffic in front. Even Craig Berube said they didn't get traffic in front of Shesterkin. They didn't make it tougher on him. He made a number of really excellent saves, but they didn't make it tougher on him. In a couple of instances, they overpassed the puck. So, you're trying, and that's always a situation that I think annoys a lot of fans. This team tries to make perfect goals, tries to, pass it into the net, get somebody in front of the net, take the eyes away from the goaltender, shoot the puck, and score. It's not difficult. It's hockey 101.
So why are the Leafs making it difficult?
Like I said, well, because they want to they want to be. Sometimes they want to be too fine. Sometimes they want to be too perfect, and sometimes perfect is sometimes the enemy of good.
Is that the kind of player this team exudes? Is that skilled individual who wants to finish with finesse, finish with flair, as opposed to sometimes that brute force and grit that is required to score goals?
I mean, it comes and goes in waves. I mean, they seem to get it at some points and then it disappears. I mean, it seems to be part of the flow of the game. Guys like Bobby McMahon and Matthew Nyes using their size, that rhymes. That's their game. That has to be their game. Guys like Nylander and Tavares and Marner and Matthews, they have high-end talent, and sometimes they can get away with being overly fine. But in the end, you're going to win based on those dirty goals. And there have been a few instances during this year where they've scored the dirty goals, and then there's also been some instances where they've passed up on good opportunities to make that extra pass, like the Domi Nylander 2-on-1 in the second period yesterday, where shoot the puck. You need to shoot the puck, and they didn't.
Do you not think that the coaching staff is delivering this message?
Yeah, but I think it's losing something in translation. I think that in the end, sometimes you cannot blame the coach for again. I've always been blame the players more than the coach.
Mm-hmm.
The coach
Mm-hmm.
can talk till he's blue in the face. If the player is going to do what the player is going to do, how can the only weapon you have against that is sitting the player.
Right.
So, and they're not going to sit some of these players. So there you go.
Oh, okay. Well, it's it's 5 games in. Leafs are 3-2, 4 games to come. It's going to be a big week. Speaking of the head coach, there's been some video circulating showing him yelling at the players and not necessarily admonishing them, but trying to get them to be a little bit more impactful in practice. Even during that Kings game on the bench, called the timeout. You could read his lips. Weren't the kindest words. It gives this sense to fans that Berube is just not having any shit at any time this year, and that he's a different animal than Sheldon Keefe. Arnav, Berube will demand more from them as the season goes on. I got my popcorn ready for the show. You disagree with Craig Berube in having him line up with Ryan Reeves most nights. You're not going to, align all of your beliefs with the guy who's coaching the team at all times. But is there any way we can gauge how things are going with Craig Berube behind the bench? Is it too early, or is there anything you're seeing? Are you encouraged, or do you think that in the long run it'll be the players really who dictate what happens here? Berube is just another guy behind the bench wearing an expensive suit.
Well, okay. I don't think he's just another guy. He has won a Stanley Cup. I do think that, there's going to be an adjustment period where, right now all these players are sort of on their toes because he's a new guy and, they sort of have to ingratiate themselves and earn his respect,
Right.
Especially these players on the bubble. If you don't play the right way, if you don't play the way he wants you to play, you're going to end up in the press box. So he's got that hammer. Now, we know he likes physical play, and that's why Ryan Reeves has been in the lineup more than he has been. I don't agree with that. But as injured players come back, I think you're probably going to see him in the press box more than often. I think that there was a needed change of voice. Sheldon Keefe was around for, since 2019. So, after a certain point, teams just tune out coaches that have been around too long, unless those are coaches that have won. And Sheldon Keefe is a good coach, but again, I blame the departure of Sheldon Keefe more on the players that were put in the position of leading this team to the promised land, not doing so. It was less on Keefe. I know there are a lot of people who blame Keefe, and Mitch Marner and William Nylander and Austin Matthews and John Tavares can't do anything wrong. Well, that's wrong. What I think is that this team has needed to supplement that talent for years, and because of their salary cap constraints, because they're paying players too much. That's been a situation that couldn't be undone. Now, really, they need a coach to sort of put the burr to the saddle and get these guys going. And it's 5 games, so it's too early to really evaluate whether he will have the right voice and right formula for this team to have success. Again, like I said last week, the season begins in April. I mean, all this team needs to do is get into the tournament of 8. And I think they will. They're good enough. They're good enough to be able to do that. Now, they will have to eventually beat teams like the Rangers and not lose to teams that are well below them, like the Montreal Canadiens. So that will be, and this is going to be a difficult week with 4 games that they play. They're going to probably have to win 3 of those 4. Nicholas in the chat says Coach Mike. Yeah, no, I don't pretend to be a coach. I'm just saying I've watched hockey long enough to know what it takes to get a team to win. And this team roster wise and partially coaching wise, hasn't had that over the last few years, even from, somebody who was supposedly the greatest coach in the world in Mike Babcock. Mm-hmm. So, Craig Berube is going to have a different message than Sheldon Keefe, and we will see if it works.
And what do you want out of a coach anyway? Somebody who is just complicit with however things go with the team and is always easy to deal with, and never has any dissenting ideas of how things should go based on what he's seeing. I mean, it's okay for a little bit of acrimony that can be tamped down by success, but it's one's required to have another. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it's all right. And we don't know how the players truly feel about Berube at this time. They're just getting to know one another. As the season goes on, we'll find out. Berube, his mandate is to get this team to where it hasn't been able to get to. That's why he's here. And in a couple of years, when we're doing Leafs Convo season 8, 9, 10, 11, there's a good chance that Craig Berube isn't even the head coach at that time. So, the formative stages of this relationship, coaches to players, is still taking place. And, I'm here for it. I want to see good things happen. But I really don't care if they like him or he likes them. I just want competence, competition, and success with Craig Berube behind the bench, his staff helping out, and players who are buying in. And at this stage of the game, and with everything on the line for all of these guys as a team, collectively and individually, as you say, Mike, and I agree with you, there's only one expectation, and that's to do well. Personal relationships be damned. Go out and get things done. I don't want to do too long of a show tonight, Mike. Joseph Woll's kicking around, trying to get back into shape. Anthony Stolarz has looked pretty good. Just another comment I'll make about Berube and who he has at his selection. Look, if he thinks Ryan Reeves should be in there, he's going to make that decision based on who might be lining up on the other side. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. He's got a ton of talent that he can choose from, and that's the beauty of this team right now. It's not like you're devoid of players who bring particular skill. The team is a mosaic of all kinds of capability, all kinds of possibility. So on any given night, you're expecting the head coach to make the decision that he believes is going to put this team in the best position to win, and use the kind of guys he has to get that job done. So I'm not too concerned about that. It's just as time goes on, if these decisions don't bear the fruit, and then we can start asking more questions. A few more comments to you, Mike, and then maybe give us a little bit of a preview on how you think the week is going to go, and we'll get out of here.
Well, I mean, the job of a coach is to hold the players accountable. And I'm not saying that Sheldon Keefe didn't, but after a while, that just the players will naturally just tune a coach out after a while. This is a new coach with a new voice, and he will hold them accountable. And if they don't play the way he wants, they won't play. There are enough players there. They played Timothy Liljegren one game against LA, and then he sat back down. They put Connor Timmins back in the lineup. Apparently they either didn't like the way Liljegren played, or they just wanted to get him a little work, and it's going to be a rotation of some sort. But I think that in the end, that's what is, this team is not playing the type of hockey. Well, okay, listen, they can't be expected to play the type of hockey that can win in the playoffs in early to mid-October. That will come as the season elapses.
Well, the intensity is just not there at this point.
Right, but you still have to compile points. And that's why I'm saying, you play Montreal, you need to win, because Montreal is one of the worst teams in the league. But Montreal plays Toronto like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final every time. Same thing with Buffalo. Toronto comes to Buffalo, who could miss the playoffs, works themselves up into a lather, and they play their best hockey against Toronto.
Is that where we're going to see the best development from this Maple Leafs team, when they're taking on a team they need to beat, who is coming in fervent and raring to go, because that game does represent more than just a win or loss to that particular team. When the Leafs can, stamp those teams out, beat the shit out of them, and move on, is that where we're going to see the growth that we're waiting for?
Yeah, we'll have to see that. And that's, I mean, if we do see that, then I think a lot of people will be much more bullish in terms of their playoff chances. So I did see a lot of stuff in the chat about Tavares. I haven't had a problem with the way Tavares has played this season. That's like
you're never gonna hear the end of it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm sorry, folks. It's like, okay, you have to look past the salary. And it's easy for me to say because I'm the one who points out, that they're paying 4 players $40 million plus, but he's in the final year of the contract. They didn't buy him out. They've moved him down to either third line center or sometimes second line center. He's still an effective player. Is he an $11 million player? No, not anymore. But he might be a $4 or $5 million player, and that's what they might sign him to with an extension. So what they need is the guy who's making $10.9 million who wants to make $13 million to play like that. And honestly, Mitch Marner hasn't played very well so far this year. Maybe he's feeling the pressure of the expectations that are on him. But
he's got a point per game. So does Max Doe. I mean, nobody's off to a flying start.
No.
Okay.
No, and
Marner's got a point per game. Austin Matthews has 2 goals.
And traditionally, Marner has not started the season off well. Never really started the season off hot. He usually gets going in November and December. And again, as long as they keep their head above water, as long as they're over 500 and they're in a playoff spot, then then they'll be fine. But I just see, I mean, honestly, the overwrought reaction of some of the, Morgan Riley is one of the worst defensemen in the NHL. I saw something about Tavares being slow. I mean, just, my God, man, check yourself. It's like Morgan Riley is not, in fact, Morgan Riley has played pretty well paired with Chris Tanev. They finally have put together a top pairing where Tanev is, the defensive guy, and he has no points this year, but nobody's complaining because he's blocking shots and he's playing a superior defensive game, and he's allowing Riley to take offensive chances, like the one where he scored a goal against LA on Wednesday. I mean, people are sort of overreacting early in the season to a very small window, and that's what I mean. It's like, again, fine, go ahead, but the season does not start until April.
I think you should have, OG's conference, I think you should have let it all out and got it out of your system before puck drop on this season. The animosity with Marner, the vitriol towards Riley, the discontent with Tavares. These guys are going to be on the team for the next 4, 5, 6 months, years in some circumstances. We just have to put our angst towards these guys aside and just be along for the ride, right? If they're terrible, you can react to it based on that particular game. But while nobody's off to a hot start, nobody's really looked brutal. I mean, the Leafs are still 3-2 and probably win 2 games coming up this week against really tough competition. It's just such a toxic relationship that goes back and that is festering at an accelerated rate 2 weeks into the season. Like, how are we going to get through this? Tavares is the guy. He's going to be here. Marner's going nowhere. Again, Morgan Riley always seems to leave more to be desired, but he is what he is. OG's Converse, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Mike, what are your thoughts on the week to come, and we'll get out of here?
Well, 2 home games, 2 road games, back-to-back Monday, Tuesday. The Monday game is Tampa Bay. That's always difficult. They're not as good as they have been in the past, but they are playing well early in the season. I think they're trying to prove to people that the team is still going to be good without Steven Stamkos. But it's usually a wide open affair. Again, the game in Columbus on Tuesday, second of back-to-back. If Wall is not back, that means probably Hildeby plays. He played really well in his first game, so that's a game that they have to win. And those are the games like last year. If you remember, I think Ilya Samsonov, one of those games in December was the game that they blew to a bad Columbus team. They need to win those games. And then, Thursday against the Blues. The Blues are a decent team, but that's a game that they should be favored. And then they go back to the Hall of Horrors, the TD Garden in Boston for Saturday night against the Bruins.
But that's the thing about those kinds of games, Mike. If they lose, we were expecting it. If they win, do we give them credit? Is that indicative of them beginning to climb Mount Boston for the ultimate conquer down the line?
No, because this is the regular season. The problems have not been winning in Boston during the regular season. The problems have been winning in the at the TD Garden in Game 7. That's been the problems. It's like, great. You can get over that mental hurdle when it means nothing, but when it means a lot, then you can't. And that's, so they could very well win on Saturday night. Does it mean anything? No. I mean, other than the 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a complex relationship with this team and its players. That's not going to change. We have to find some contentment as we go forward, or it's just going to be absolute misery whether this team is doing well or not. Mr. Augello, what are you writing at hockeybuzz.com right now?
Well, I wrote yesterday about the goaltending depth in the organization, and with Wall out, you have Stolarz and you have Hildeby, and Hildeby played really well in the AHL last year and made a really great start. But now you've got Hildeby and you've got the Russian kid Akhtiamov, who's started a couple games for the Marlies. He's playing well, and Matt Murray made 35 saves last night in a win over Rochester. So if there are injuries, if there are slumps, there are answers within the organization, short-term and long-term, and I do think that is something to look forward to.
And all of these goaltenders are beneficial to the Maple Leafs and their potential ability to be successful on the ice this season. It's not like any of these guys are major trade bait who could be moved for a player that the Leafs might feel that they need. So that's the interesting thing about it. You've got a glut of talent trying to fill one spot, and it's essentially, roll the dice. Whoever's name comes up, he gets in, and the expectation is you'll get decent goaltending on most nights, and that's really exciting. So, Mike, your Yankees win the ALCS. They're off to the World Series. It's incredible that within a week's time, myself, my wife, my daughter, and my son may find ourselves at Yankee Stadium for this competition that my son's involved with.
I envy you.
It's surreal. And for me last night, Foreigner inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
A great band, an absolute great band. There are so many great bands that aren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we could do another half hour on that because it makes me sick that certain bands are in there and other ones that are.
What does it tell you about the Rock Hall then?
That they're clueless. That's what it tells me. That I think there's a bias because remember the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has been tied in with Rolling Stone magazine, and Rolling Stone magazine does not like certain types of music. They've always ranked and rated progressive rock low.
Right.
So,
well, justice has been served. Foreigners in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and sometime within the next 5 to 10 years, Cooperstown will finally open its doors to the greatest hitter of all time, Barry Bonds. So we're working our way there, Mike.
Not a chance, but okay.
It's going to happen, my friend. We have to be adults about it, accept it, move on, and give players like that their flowers.
No Clemens, no A-Rod, no Bonds, no...
You righteous bugger, you, Mike. Thank you and your ivory tower.
No cheers.
Hey man, I might be in Buffalo soon, so if you got some time and you're near the airport, let's have a cappuccino. For
Okay.
Mr. Augello, I'm Norm. OG's Commerce. Thanks for being here. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Watch out for our combo shorts. If we can mix in a show before the family and I take off for the World Series next week, we will. If not, the likelihood of a Sunday spectacular to come is pretty slim, but you know, we've got lots of content in the pipeline. And it's going to be a lot of fun. For Mike, I'm Norm. The Leafs Convo is out.